All right. Welcome back to the show, folks. Patrick DeMar here, bringing on a couple friends of mine to talk some baseball. We got Jason Selikoff and Paul Kashack. Paul currently in travel mode, heading down to Maryland. You said from Boston, right? Is this a July 4th trip?
That's correct. Yeah, July 4th trip to Ocean City.
Ocean City, Maryland. Where does that? Fake Ocean City. Isn't there an Ocean City in New Jersey too?
Yes, sir.
There's probably an Ocean City in every state that borders the ocean, I would bet.
Yeah,
probably not wrong.
Seems like a real thing, I guess. Jason is a resident Yankees fan. Paul hails from the great state of Pennsylvania, originally a Pittsburgh Pirate fan. Even though I'm wearing this retro Astros jersey at the moment, I'm a member of Red Sox Nation. Very proud of it as well. Red Sox are on an off day at the moment. We got Yankees, Astros on the TV to my left. Jason, man, I'll be honest. I really would love to bring you on and talk a whole bunch of shit about your team and tell you I hate you and that the Yankees are terrible, but they're kind of tearing it up right now. Just taking a look at the standings, league leading 56 wins. The next closest, believe it or not, the Astros 47-27, and then the Mets are at 47-29. We'll talk a little bit more about the Mets later, but the Yankees, I mean, it really seems like the last few years, you guys have had these off seasons going into it where it's like, oh, we're going to sign Harper. We're going to sign Cole, which you guys did end up getting Cole. And then who was it? Was it Freeman that you guys were really trying to be in on last year? But it seems like Machado. It's like every big free agent class, you guys are saying, oh, we're going to get this guy. We're going to get this guy. And outside of Cole, it really didn't work out. There was the two big moves you guys had in the last handful of years was trading for Stanton and then bringing in Garrett Cole. And then I feels like this year Cashman finally kind of has done some of the work in like the lesser pieces, bringing in the arms that you need to have rotation and bullpen depth. And then some of the minor, more like impact positional players too. Donaldson's a great pickup. Kiner Falefa has been huge coming from the Rangers. He used to kill the Red Sox too when he was in Texas. Felt like every single time we played the Rangers, he was having multi-hit games or stealing bases or throwing guys out from behind the plate. But he plays short and third, and I think a little outfield as well for you guys, right?
He just plays short, but he's played third in the past, but he's just our shortstop right now.
Yeah, and of course you can't talk about the Yankees without talking about Aaron Judge and all the stuff he's doing. He's on pace for close to a 70 home run season. He hit his 29th yesterday.
Yep.
That's pretty absurd just by itself. It's contract year for him. Say what you want about that. My reasoning for bringing you onto the podcast and for wanting to talk to you about this, I remember in 2018 when the Red Sox had their franchise record-setting year, at least. I think they had I forget how many wins exactly it was in the regular season, but they won the World Series that year. Well, yeah, 108. And I ended up going to a decent amount of games that summer. Every single game I went to, we won. Tuned into a whole bunch of games that season. And I remember having a thought at some point in the middle of the year, this is probably the best, at least regular season team I've seen for the Red Sox. They ended up winning the World Series that year. Has that thought crossed your mind at all with this Yankees team? Because you've seen a decent amount of you've seen some good Yankees teams, whether it be from that 09 team that won the World Series to the teams in the early 2000s, and even some of the teams from the last handful of years with the core of LeMahieu and Stanton and Judge and mixing Garrett Cole in there has had some great teams. But I'll give the floor to you. What are you thinking?
I think from a talent standpoint, I don't think they're the most talented team I've seen in my lifetime. My lifetime meaning probably since like 03 was the first team I could really remember.
Yeah.
The 03, 04, 09, those teams are probably more talented top to bottom from this team.
That 09 team with Cano, Teixeira, A-Rod, Jeter, you could argue that's an infield full of Hall of Famers right there. Posada was still playing then too, right? Or was that McCann?
Posada, Pettit, Sabathia, Rivera. Rivera was 39 years old. He had a 1.7 ERA, I think, that year. So,
yeah. That's like 9.
Top to bottom, they probably had 6, 7, possibly 8 Hall of Famers.
Right.
Again, there could be a few on this team right now, but it's too early to tell. But I think so far you can't really argue that they're the best team top to bottom, but talent-wise, I think those other teams trumped this one. So, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the two things that scare me are health and also experience. I think the only two guys who have played in the World Series are Chapman and Rizzo.
Right.
So you take those two guys away, and I mean, yes, Judge has played in the playoffs, but he's never been in a World Series, so we'll see what happens. If
I were a Yankees fan, I would be more scared of what Aaron Boone does to maybe screw all this up. I mean, he's been that's from an outsider's perspective, sure, but I've felt multiple times the last few years, especially in playoff scenarios, that he could have maybe handled things a little bit better. Now, at the same time, he's not the one out there at the plate or making the plays in the field, so he can't go out there and pitch a gem in a playoff game for Garrett Cole. You know what I'm saying? It's but that does still tie into it. I mean, like, you're thinking, what's your thought process going ahead into the second half of the season, just trying to make sure that this group kind of keeps the status quo?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been the biggest fan of Boone, but I'm also not the biggest hater of Boone by any means.
Are you kind of in the middle? You're not an apologist, but you're not a fan, really?
I'm kind of in the middle, more towards giving him a chance and becoming a fan. I mean, he's been with the team for, I think this is his fourth or fifth year, and he's had one of the best winning percentages basically ever as a first 4 or 5 years as a manager.
Right.
I know they haven't gone super deep in certain playoffs, but I mean, I think it's the people above him and the analytics team that kind of, at least the first few years, told him everything what to do. So I wouldn't consider all of that his fault in the first few years. I think kind of the biggest differences between this year and the other years are, I mean, Rizzo from a clubhouse guy, from a just professional standpoint, he's kind of rubbed off on Judge, Stanton, I mean, all these other guys, and the pitching coach, Matt Blake. I mean, he basically came from a nobody working a 9-to-5 job, and he's probably the best pitching coach in the all of MLB.
Yeah. This came up in our group chat like a week or two ago. What's the story with him? Wasn't he like coaching high school ball or like selling insurance or something a couple years?
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast with him, and I think he pitched for like a year or two, I think at Northeastern up in Boston, and he was like a lefty reliever who threw like 81, 82 and didn't really have anywhere to go. And I think, like you said, he was doing insurance or something, and all of a sudden became arguably a top 3 pitching coach in the MLB. I mean, what he's done with Tyone, Cortez, Severino coming back from injury, Montgomery, Clay Holmes, Michael King. I mean, all these guys are the only guy who had the talent. Severino, yes, but he's been coming off of injury. But I mean, Cole had all the talent.
Right.
So it's kind of amazing what he's done with everybody else.
And now, Paul, I want to flip it to you because you're actually living in Boston full time. So you've gone to a handful of Red Sox games this year. You're in the city, kind of picking up the vibes. I'm a Red Sox fan, but I sort of have this outsider's perspective because I'm located in South Carolina. I can't really get a pulse for things are in the city. What's the hatred or worry level from Red Sox fans about the Yankees? Is it something that people are talking about, or is it more so just like at the moment, we're just happy to be back in the wild card conversation. We'll worry about those guys later?
Well, real quickly before I get into that, the Pittsburgh organization is very happy to have gifted the Yankees with Jameson, Tyone, Garrett Cole, and Clay Holmes. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
When can we officially make the Pittsburgh Pirates the AAA branch of the New York Yankees organization?
I mean, Hoy Park's doing pretty good things for you guys. I think he's got 2 home runs. He's batting .224, 60 points higher than Joey Gallo. So.
No, yeah, I think that we've already reached the point where we're the AAA farm system for the Yankees. But getting to your point, DeMar, the pulse in Boston is really now just switching to the Red Sox, really, with the Celtics run
right.
The NBA Finals. That was largely the focus. A little bit on the Bruins as well. They got knocked out pretty early. But the city, I think, is still recovering from the Celtics a little bit. So definitely. I wouldn't say that too much worry and focus has shifted to the Yankees yet. I think that now people are getting excited that the Red Sox have been playing pretty good baseball of late. I don't know off the top of my head what their record has been over the past month or so, but I do know I think they've rattled off maybe 10 or 11 in a row, or 10 of 11 or something like that, semi-recently. I mean, there's a lot of talent on that team. I have been to a good amount of games since I moved up there a little over a year ago. With Story, Bogarts, Chris Sale not even back yet. He was just in a rehab start recently. So I don't think that there's too much worry yet. We'll see. Jason alluded to health. That is always a huge factor with baseball for any team. I think that we'll kind of get a pulse on that question, mid to late August. If the Yankees are still kind of on the pace that they are now, it's going to be tough, because then that Boston and really any team in the AL playoffs, you're going to have to go into the Bronx to win and move on to the World Series. So we'll see. I think that division is very, very tough. I really could see any of those three teams, the big three, Toronto, Boston, and New York, winning the American League. So I think that all of that's going to get hashed out as we go forward.
For sure. To your point, by the way, the Red Sox 20-6 in the month of June, a 20-6 record in the month of June, best in baseball during that span. Still a long way to go. Best record in baseball during June, Boston Red Sox 20-6.
I think Yanks had 22 wins. I could be wrong.
Let me check. I want to double check this now. So friendly rivalry. See, this is where I brought you on, Jason, because I knew that you would check me if I tried to just.
But they did just lose today, so that might have.
No, the Red Sox didn't play today. Yankees are still on.
No, Yankees lost.
I thought this game. Oh, did it just end? Just now?
Yeah, it just ended. According to statmuse.com, Yankees are 22-5.
So then, yes, the Yankees would have a 1.5 game advantage over the Sox in the month of June, basically. So
one because they lost today, but yep.
Yeah,
gotta keep you in check.
That's a crazy pace to keep up, and you can't. You mentioned the Blue Jays as well, Paul, but you still can't forget about the Rays, because even the Rays are in there. I mean, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox are separated by a half game in the standings, and then Tampa Bay is 2 games behind the Red Sox. So it's right now it's the Yankees division to lose. And I was talking to my dad on the phone today. I basically told him I think the Yankees probably hold on to this unless there's either multiple injuries to the team, or they just go on several crazy cold streaks. You can make up 13 games, and what is it? We still have 80 something, probably 90-ish games to play in the season. We're 76 games in at the moment. So yeah, that's 86 games left, right? Yeah, I think.
Math god.
Yeah, math legend over here. So that's plenty of time to make up that ground. But at the same time, if the Yankees are going to be this consistent, I don't know.